So am I ready? Are you ready? Hello, my name is Sunny and today is Sunday, October 30th, 2016, which means we're days away from NaNoWriMo starting. I feel actually really ready. I'm not freaking out as much today as I was last week when I made a video, or well, earlier in the week, honestly. It was just a few days ago I made that video. Like, right after I made that video earlier this week, I ended up a bit paralyzed with everything that I was doing. Nano prep, stitchery, witchery, work. I just ended up really stuck, and I didn't want to do anything. And I know that I have this problem where if they pile too much on top of myself, I end up just saying, screw it, I'm not doing anything. And then I just want to binge on like Netflix for a week. I did make a decision that helped with that. I decided to not do any cross stitching for a couple of days and just use some previously made ones that I had I was holding on to so that I could actually use them if I had this issue, because I know I have this issue, so I had some backups ready. So I decided to use them, and immediately I felt better. Immediately I felt like, okay, everything is manageable, I have this. And I know that I operate this way, I know I have this issue, and so therefore I can pretty well assume that because I'm moving during NaNoWriMo, I'm going to have this issue again. Eventually things are going to come to a breaking point, and I'm going to need to find a way to stop the freak out. And in some ways, I'm actually really grateful that I did Stitchery Witchery the month before NaNoWriMo. It was another like month-long challenge, and near the end I was getting exhausted and I was having trouble motivating myself to actually get stuff done, and it definitely shows in the frequency in which I was like uploading stuff and everything. But that challenge kind of highlighted all of the issues that I tend to have during NaNoWriMo, and now I'm remembering them because it's been a whole year since I've had to deal with all this crap. Now I'm remembering the issues that I tend to have, and that's one of them. I can build things up and I can get paralyzed, and I have to find a way to get past that. So anyway, it was actually a really good thing that I did the Stitchery Witchery, because now I know what to look out for during NaNoWriMo, and I've dealt with them already this month, so I can deal with them next month even better. So that's great. I thought it would be kind of nice to look back and see what I actually did for prep this last 6 weeks. I kept saying I was going to do a lot of stuff, and then I ended up not doing everything that I thought I was going to do, which happens. My prep kind of went in a slightly different direction than I thought it would, plus I was doing this Stitchery Witchery thing, which kind of reduced the amount of time I was spending prepping, which is actually a good thing, and I'll talk about that later. So here's what I ended up actually doing for prep this year. Every year I like to read a book and apply that to the experiment that is NaNoWriMo. And this year I decided to read Plot Perfect. I spoke about it a lot early in my prep season. It's not my favorite book that I've read on the writing craft. I was talking to Josh about it, who was in the video a couple weeks ago, and he says that it probably sounds like this author might be like an agent or an editor or something like that. So they're coming at writing from a completely different mindset than like an author, somebody that writes all the time. So definitely I'm taking the advice in that book with a grain of salt, and but I did end up finding some useful information from it. Like this plot breakdown of the hero's journey. It's done in about 10 steps or so, and I like that it's kind of a condensed version of some other versions of the hero's journey that I've seen, and I actually used that structure to figure out what I was going to write this year, because I didn't know. In the beginning of my prep, I had like 5 or 6 possible stories that I could actually do, and I had no idea which one I wanted to do, and I was hoping the book would help illuminate that for me, and I guess in some way it did. What I ended up doing was narrowing down my possible story choices down to about 3, and I decided to run those 3 stories through this plot structure from the book and figure out which one kind of spoke to me the most and what what felt easiest to kind of visualize, and some kind of pulled me in. What pulled me in? What did I actually want to do? And it was really hard because it ended up being just two that I was mostly interested in, because the third one I didn't actually run through that process. I thought I would. I have most of it already plotted out elsewhere, and so I guess I just thought, well, I've already done this once before, I don't need to do it again. Plus, already I had decided that the Magic Colors one was what was speaking to me the most, and so finally I made a decision, and that was as recently as Wednesday. I was kind of just after making that decision, I made a video, and now I'm in the nitty-gritty of just kind of sitting down with the story and seeing where it's, like how it's going to work out. At this point, I have the beginning of the story and just a little bit of the very early parts of the middle of the story. I have some of the scenes extrapolated from that plot list that I made from the Plot Perfect book, and I'm excited to sit down and try to work through that system with the rest of the big plot points and see how many scenes I can already visualize. And and actually the story has kind of shifted a little bit already, even just sitting down and working out these scene ideas. The story kind of folded itself in one spot, which I think I'm fine with. The scenes didn't end up going in the order that I thought they would due to the plot thing. So the more I work into this story, the more it's going to unfold in ways like that, and it's probably going to end up being completely different from what I've already envisioned, which is fine. I made a list of all the things that I did for prep this year, and it doesn't actually look like I did a whole lot for prep. I probably could have just spent the last 2 weeks of October working on prep and getting all of this done, but it's usually in September I remember that NaNoWriMo is coming up and I start to get a little anxious. So just kind of dripping out my prep over the month and a half before NaNoWriMo seems to be the way that I tend to do this. It's what I did last year, but I spent a lot more time focusing on it, and I think that ended up with me in a bit of an exhaustion on NaNoWriMo. I got midway through the month and I had already been working on NaNoWriMo stuff for 2 months, and I was just kind of exhausted. And there was a lot of stresses at work, and I let everything pile up on itself, and I ended up paralyzed. and that was it. I didn't end up finishing that year. So this year, I very pointedly didn't want to spend every waking second thinking about NaNoWriMo. I had this other project I was working on, which really focused a lot of my energy on that. So then I had a few moments here and there. I actually was excited to sit down and do the NaNoWriMo prep, and those very few spare moments that I allowed myself to do it, it became this little exciting thing that I got to work on. It's like, this little plant I planted this little plant, and it's gonna grow because I'm spending this little bit of energy on it, and now here I have this expanded to this, and things are growing and things are moving. But that's me as a plot. I like to get a handle of the story a lot sooner than when I'm actually going to sit down and start writing it. I think outside of NaNoWriMo, I would have actually already started to write it. Maybe earlier this week might have been when I actually started to sit down and write it. I felt comfortable enough to actually do that. The other day, all I wanted to do was just sit down and write the first scene because I was so inspired to do it. And I was like, no, you gotta wait. That's fine. That's fine. I put that creative energy into the other, like writing summaries of other scenes and stuff. So I'm real pumped about it. But that's because I'm a plotter. I like to plot things out. I like to figure out where it's going and what's happening, who these people are and how they're related and all of this stuff. But pantsers, which I don't tend to be, pantsers, I feel like at this point, less than 2 days ahead, is probably about the time when you would sit down and start kind of thinking, well, what do I actually want to write this year? I think this is probably as much prep as many pantsers might want to go through. This year, I think I am doing a bit of a hybrid. I'm not going to write out every single scene that is necessary to tell the story like I've done in previous NaNoWriMo. This year, I think I'm just going to write the big key scenes that each of these plot points that I was writing down earlier kind of relate. I'm gonna, move through that and see how I can bridge those together with what is left that's needed. I'm gonna try maybe this year not writing in chronological order. That might be another thing that would be interesting to try. This is an experiment. NaNoWriMo is an experiment. I'm trying something new, and I'm excited to see how it turns out. So what's next for me is sitting down and trying to work out some more of these scenes and getting my area all ready. I need to go get a candle and make sure I have my teas all set up and clean some mugs out so I have that ready. I think I also want to get some lemonade to have something tasty to drink. I don't know, that's just gonna prepare everything, and I'll make a video about that tomorrow about my last second preparations and a super big party good luck party for the start. And I'm ready. I'm ready. My body's ready. By the way, I haven't done a video here in a while. I'm at my grandma's house sitting once again at the beginning of NaNoWriMo. My first few videos for NaNoWriMo, the first time I did videos was here. So it's a bit of a callback. But that's it for me today. I hope your prep is going well. So we are at last second prep. Are you still like hardcore trying to sit down and get stuff figured out? Do you know what you're doing? How is it going? Are you tearing your hair out? Please don't. Please leave your lovely hair in. Let me know how you're doing on your prep in the comments below. This is stress season. You can do it. Please know that you can do this. If it's your first year doing NaNoWriMo, it was literally like 2 days beforehand, I remembered that NaNoWriMo was going to be happening. I happened to catch it. And that's as much prep as I got. I was like, oh, NaNoWriMo is coming up. I need to figure out what I'm gonna do. So I found this little story sliver idea that I had saved in a document somewhere, and I zoomed out and figured out what the story was gonna be, kind of, and just ran with it. And that's as much prep as I did. And I won that year. So it's possible. It's totally possible to win your first year of NaNoWriMo. You just have to know that you need the dedication and you need to let yourself go. Maybe more on that tomorrow. Anyway, I will see you tomorrow for another update as we all go crazy, as we all kind of freak out in the last hours till NaNoWriMo. Take it easy. Good luck on your prep. You can do it. Fighting. Bye. And I'm gonna try maybe this year not to write in chronological